Amazon rejected my invoice. What do I do now? Well, I'm pleased to say that you don't have to close the door and walk away. In fact, you just shouldn't do that. So how should an invoice actually look? Here is a prime example of one that I have used myself to get Ungated. So we have the business's details at the top. Very, very nicely done. Obviously the fact that it's an invoice and all that, but the main things here is things like the invoice address. So we'd have the invoice address there. The delivery address, it doesn't matter where you get it delivered to. All Amazon are looking at is the invoice address. They'll understand that your delivery address is probably going to be different because you might be ordering your stuff to a prep center, or to, if you say live with a partner and you're between two houses, then it might be to both houses. It might be somewhere else, I don't know. But either way, delivery address doesn't matter. It's the invoice address that they're looking for. And it should probably specify the fact that, this one is the invoice address, that one is the delivery address. You'll obviously have your items here, quantity, pricing doesn't matter as such. What they're looking for is the quantity. So all that doesn't really matter. Quantity, item, brand, okay? Also, as a little bonus tip as well, if you ever have to enter in things like currency of origin information, which is really important if you're selling into other marketplaces, some wholesalers are very nice and put the country of origin in as part of the description. And for extra help as well, there's commodity codes, which is very useful for, again, if you are listing in other marketplaces. So this really is right here, like an example of the perfect invoice, but just so long as it at least has the address of the supplier, whoever they may be, wholesaler, retailer, whatever, all those details, invoice address that matches the one in your Seller Central, the brand, product, and the right quantity. That's really all you need. And of course, a date as well, the invoice date. And it's got to be within the last 180 days. So, yeah. Nitpicky bits. If it's a physical invoice, make sure your picture includes all four corners of the paper. I know, why would they reject me for that? I don't know. But sometimes they have done that. I've known sellers that have had that happen to them, and all they've done is lifted the phone up a little bit more. All four corners of the paper are included. Boom, Amazon have accepted that for some reason. Crazy. In short, it's in a non-editable format like PDF. Now, this one can be quite easy to miss. I've missed it myself by mistake sometimes. And if you are, say, taking a picture of a physical invoice, it might be in a format that isn't a non-editable one, so you want to make sure that you're converting it to that. Now there's loads of ways to do that. If you're really not sure, there's online converters, so Google that, online converter, convert to PDF or whatever, and there's like loads of free ones that you can just do online. If you've bought one wholesale case, for example, but within that case there's say 12 units, make sure that the invoice specifies that. I've had it at times where the wholesaler has basically in the quantity put like the cases that I've ordered of that product, but not the exact quantity, like how many units exactly. So I've had to ask them to break that down and specify that further. And if you're doing it via a wholesaler, then usually they're really happy to oblige, at least the ones that I've used anyway. With retailers, you probably need to make sure that you're getting this right off the bat, because retailers aren't going to spend any time correcting the invoices really. Should I resubmit? Make sure any and all corrections are made before submitting, otherwise you're wasting your time. So make sure you are giving them the right file. Maybe you want to name it something new, like at the end of the invoice name, just put like 1 in brackets or something like that, so you know the difference. Sometimes the Amazon system doesn't pick up everything the first time. I don't know if it's a person that checks stuff anymore, or if it's like an AI or something. So in which case, all you would have to do, if everything is in order, is just keep resubmitting. Now, I heard that there is a lucky number where if you, in worst case scenario, if you submit it that number of times, it will just like let you have it. Everything has to be correct, of course, but if you are in that situation, just keep resubmitting. Just keep doing it. Now, I hear that the lucky number is 7, but I've also had other people tell me that it's like numbers like 12, for example, but from what I know, it's 7. I'm not saying that you have to resubmit 7 times, because I know that you probably sat there rolling your eyes like, oh, do I have to? No, but in the worst case scenario, in those situations where they just keep rejecting it for basically no reason, I've heard that the lucky number of resubmission times is 7. Do the wholesalers/retailers need to make any alterations from their side? If so, ask them. Retailers are going to be a lot more reluctant to doing this than wholesalers, but it's still worth an ask anyway, if you have to go down that route. Don't forget to keep on top of your selling applications, particularly those that need action. So you can do that in your Amazon Seller Central. Probably pin view selling applications to the top of your Seller Central dashboard. You can filter by those that need actions, and you can see that obviously in the status. So any that need action, just action it. If you have the thought, I'll edit the invoice myself. No, absolutely do not do that. Whether it's AI, Canva or Photoshop, just don't do it. Even if it looks authentic, even if you get away with it once by luck, just don't do it, because if Amazon find out the truth, then your selling days are over. And really, is it worth it for the sake of an invoice and getting Ungated? You might as well just ask the wholesaler to amend it, or if there's anything that you have to do, like if it was maybe you have the wrong address entered into the wholesaler website, so you might just need to go and correct that. Ask them for a reprint with the updated address. Boom, done, fine. Whatever you do, do not go about editing these things yourself. That is suspension city, and there's not really going to be any coming back from that, because there's not really any way that a mistake can be made. Like, oh, I accidentally just added the right quantity onto my invoice via Photoshop. It just doesn't happen. So don't edit the invoice yourself.